I think the root of my personal story lays very far back in my childhood, as for many of us. From now on, I will prove these three teachers and the world that I'm worthy of something. But then something happened when I was 19. I was dumped with morphine. I was in a wheelchair. I had this leg cutted, and I was super thin and everything. It grew and grew and grew, and so I started my private thing, and I was earning a bunch of money by just doing toxin. And I from the money I earned, I bought new vials and had new patients. So once a month, I saw like 20 patients doing Botox, and that was my pocket money during med school. And I was thinking going back to the initial school to show the teachers what I've achieved. There was one other thing besides the focus on branding. Customer experience, I think, is key in my history, and that's, I don't know if you know the story about this podcast. I did my first season last year, and I had like 12 guests on my show, and our attempt was to talk about a business topic and aesthetics. And after this first season, we did a survey, and the feedback was, we would like to see more solo episodes about your story, Felix, and about your thoughts on business. So I decided for the second episode to offer a mix, some solo episodes and some episodes with amazing guests. So this is a solo episode. I will talk about my own journey in two parts, and later we will do some more solo episodes on specific topics like leadership, employees, branding, marketing, and others. But today, about me. How did it get started? I think the root of my personal story lays very far back in my childhood, as for many of us. I was around 13, and I was going through a difficult phase in my life because my parents divorced, and there was some other things going on which haven't been pleasant, and they were around my school. I don't want to dive into details, but I remember one thing. I decided to leave the school for very personal reasons. And my mother was teacher at that school, and it's a private school. And when the son of a teacher is leaving the school, it's not the best of image for this school. So I had to go and see three teachers, and they wanted to do some kind of assessment with me. And they basically told me I'm not good enough to leave the school. I'm not good enough to enter any other school. And that was a very changing moment in my life. So I had two choices. Either I fall apart and accept this judgment, or I did the opposite. And luckily, I'm structured to do the opposite. And I decided that day that from now on, I will prove these three teachers and the world that I'm worthy of something. So I think this one day is the fuel for many things happening today. I mean, I was 13, and the weeks after this incident, I was daydreaming about driving with a Porsche to the school and showing these three teachers that I made it. That was my dream of making it. However, I had no recommendation letter from the school, and this private school by then had no single pupil leaving this school and make it on a high-level public school. So Germany, that was Germany. We have three levels. There's a basic level of school, a middle level, and the high level, which you need if you want to go to university. So I wanted to approach for the high-level thing, and I went to the school and talked to the director, and I asked him to give me a chance. And he said, well, fair enough, and I appreciate your courage to show up here. I give you the chance. You are welcome to be here for a trial period of 6 months, and if your grades are okay, you can stay. And I made it. And I think I'm just recently was thinking about successful people or successful lives, whatever you you think about success, and there are many definitions of success, and it's not definitely not money and success in business. Success for me is living a fulfilled life, just to make that clear, or however that looks like. And but the one part of coming to this point is tiny results. Tiny results help so much to go on, right? You might have a big goal, you might have a big dream, but it's so important to have tiny results in between. And accomplishing this trial period with the permission to go on was one of these tiny first results or successes keeping me going. A few years later, we moved to Hamburg. It's a big German city. Back then, there was not only this incident with the teachers. I also was just average. I wasn't the smart guy. I wasn't the sporty guy. I wasn't amongst these guys who were good with girls. I was just average, a little bit chubby. But when we moved to Hamburg, after this first success with the school, I was getting better in sports, and I had one passion, acting. It was a funny story. There was my school in Hamburg was a traditional historic building, and therefore a lot of series were recorded at this school, and we could be part of the film crew or the actors I don't know the word. The people who just don't say anything and just stand in the picture. We got a little bit pocket money for that. And one day they were recording a famous series, and they had a pro actor, a boy, 14-year-old pro actor. He was there, and there was this scenery. The main actor, the star of the series, was teacher. His role was to exchange with the main actor, the teacher, the main actor, the star of the series, to exchange. So the teacher sits on his chair, and the pro actor, the young pro actor, goes in front of the class and quotes Goethe. And this happened like 10 times, and he always failed, and he didn't get it wrong. And I was lucky that I was sitting right at the side of the main actor. So where the people were sitting before, at my right-hand side, now the main actor was sitting, because they changed places. And then he at one moment said, you go, you do it. And the director was called, and I said, well, I don't know, never done it, but if you think I can do it, I'll do it. The director, it was a lady, said, you have 5 minutes time to learn the quote, and then we try it with you. I was super sorry for this boy who was the pro actor, but I saw this chance. And as he was doing this quote many times already, I didn't need the 5 minutes. It wasn't really difficult. And I did it. And it worked. And then the director came later and said, are you willing to come to our agency? And life is so much about luck and opportunities, and this happened. And from then on, I was a boy pro actor, if you want to name it that way, and I did a lot of movies and TV series. I even got to work with Christoph Waltz, a 2-time Academy Award winner, and it was very clear I'm an actor in future. But then something happened when I was 19. I finished my school, I had my exams and everything, and I wanted to embark on the acting school to get a professional education. But then one night I had a motorbike accident, and it was really bad. The visible sign today is a amputated left leg, so I only have one leg. But the total accident was much more. I had inner bleedings, multiple bones were crushing. So the name for this kind of accident is polytrauma, and I was in coma for like 3 months. And it was clear I can't do the acting thing, because it was about dancing and everything, not at this time. But I had a new passion. There was a young doctor at this hospital which I loved. He was so caring, and he was kind of a role model. And I said, I want to study medicine. And I have this lucky optimism that whenever I'm in a crisis, I always have a new North Star, something I want to do. And I'm totally focused on these new things. So I really forget about the current crisis. It happened many times in my life. So I was dumped with morphine. I was in a wheelchair. I had this leg cutted, and I was super thin and everything. But I was driving towards med school, and I learned for my entrance exams, and I went on the wheelchair to the entrance exam, and I passed it. And so medicine was my new thing, and I went to med school. Throughout my med school, I had two extremes. On one hand side, I loved doing my residencies in Africa at really simple hospitals. One was the Kalafong Hospital in the bush of Africa. I was dealing with a lot of HIV patients and horrible accidents and murdered people, and people came with an axe in their back and everything. And on the other hand side, I was interested in aesthetics. And back then, this Botox area just started, and I was on an Allergan training very early on. And remember, one vial of Botox, 100 units, cost about 500 euros. I had this idea of finding 3 ladies, which is needed to really utilize this vial. And I asked my hairdressing lady, and 2 friends came with her, and we did the first Botox session. It went well. The next time it was 5 and 6, and it grew and grew and grew. And so I started my private thing, and I was earning a bunch of money by just doing toxin. And I from the money I earned, I bought new vials and had new patients. So once a month, I saw like 20 patients doing Botox, and that was my pocket money during med school. And already during med school, I had my first Porsche. And I was thinking going back to the initial school to show the teachers what I've achieved. But it's funny, when you get there, you're not interested in that anymore. So by then, I proved myself that I'm worthy of something, and I forgot. Today, I'm even not interested in Porsches anymore. So it's always part of the journey, and then it's fine. However, after med school, I first wanted to do surgery and plastic surgery, but due to my amputated leg and the pain and standing in an operating theater all the day wasn't really possible, I moved on to dermatology. But I loved 2 things. One was skin surgery and one was aesthetics. So that was my subjects in dermatology, and I was lucky to have my residencies, and my leading doctors were keen on that and specialized in these fields. So I could really learn the art of reconstructive skin surgery and aesthetics. And then I was a board certified dermatologist, but I had not enough money to open my own clinic in Germany, and no bank wanted to give me funds. So I had to find another solution. And there was, through some tweaks and turns, I found a doctor in Switzerland who wanted to give over his practice to a successor, but he was in urge. It needed to be soon because he, for whatever reasons, it was the lucky combination of he needed to find someone, and I was there, and I got this clinic for a very, very reasonable price. I paid about 100,000 Swiss francs back then for the practice. And I started as a derm in Switzerland. And I remember I went to the landlord and asked him to sign a long-term rental contract, about 25 years, because I wanted to be a dermatologist for the rest of my life. And only 6 months later, I had to go back to this landlord and resign these contracts because we grew too fast. And I moved on to a new building, and today we are 6 times the size of back then in this city only. Today we have 4 clinics, one really big one with 4,000 square meters. In total, we employ 140 employees. We see 400 patients every day and perform 50,000 treatments per year. But however, let's go back to the beginning of my career and my first practice. I was focusing on 2 things. I wanted to have a very brilliant branding. And today, I'm pretty sure the success of the most successful companies in the world is the right branding. Think of Apple, think of Red Bull, think of Virgin, Think of Harley, Starbucks, Uber, brilliant branding. That was number one. The second thing, I realized that especially the healthcare system wasn't keen on patient service and patient experience. It was cried, you were waiting for a long time. They wasn't friendly on the phone. They even had no web pages because there was so much demand from patients and doctors were so limited that they didn't need to. But I don't like the idea. Even though we had enough patients, I was very keen to create an extraordinary patient experience. So that was the two pillars of the beginning, branding and customer experience. I think the reasons for the success. So we grew fast up to this. The beginning was 5 doctors, 15 employees, and I stayed at that level for like 7 or 8 years. And it was a very happy part of my life. It was easy. We had this family atmosphere. The weekends were off, and I wasn't really, today I'm busy. I'm busy every weekend, and I'm busy. I don't take holidays. I'm always mentally, at least, with my business because it's so big, and as it gets bigger, there's so many things going on. But back then, it was a lovely size, about 15 people in total, and I had a nice tiny house at the shore of Sardinia, Italian island, and almost every weekend and summer I spent it in that house. No emails, no phone calls. I went for a swim, and it was a really, really happy part of my life. But then 2017, we decided to grow bigger. We had to make a clear decision whether we stay that size or grow, because by then a plastic surgeon embarked on our company and he needed a different infrastructure. So I decided to take on the next step. And that was the decision that was made by 2017, and we started planning a clinic in Lenzburg. Lenzburg is a tiny city, 20 minutes from Zurich. And the difference here, it is not a practice, it's a clinic with a clinic license, with beds, with a lab, with hair transplantation, with plastic surgery, and so on. There was one other thing besides the focus on branding, customer experience, I think is key in my history, and that's self-awareness. And it was subconscious. I wasn't conscious about that, but I always had in life these pillars of self-awareness or self-reflection. Back then it was Sardinia, my house in Sardinia, where I was every weekend. There was a rock like 200 meters out in the ocean, and every morning after my first espresso, I swam to this rock. I sat down, watched the sun going up, and just self-reflecting. Self-reflecting means thinking what was good in the last week or month and what was bad. What do I want to remove and what do I want to carry on with? And that is meant to be business things I would like to do and things I would like to pass on to other people, but also in regards of my inner and outer circle. My inner circle is the people I want to be with, people who inspire me, who help me thrive, and I love to be the thumbest person in the room. I love everyone is more brilliant than me because that's the only way to learn and proceed. But also in general, life balance. I was reflecting on all these things. And this really helped me. And I think especially nowadays, you are so much distracted by these outer voices and Instagram and social media. I should do this. I should do that. I should be this. I want to do crypto. I want to flip real estate. And this only leads to a chaos, nothing. What a secret to success is being focused on a very clear mission. And I was luckily able to do that. So self-awareness, self-reflection is one of the key things. Today, I don't own this house anymore in Sardinia, but my garden here in Switzerland with my dogs is my pillar of self-awareness and self-reflection. Today, I do it more consciously. Once a week, I have this one meeting with me and myself. That was part 1. Tune in to part 2.